Next up, I don't need to introduce too thoroughly because we have the return of our duo, Alex Buckley and Craig Murdoch. So while they walk down here, the faster they get here, the less I'll say about them. So Alex works at Catalyst in the same team as me, and he is a wonderful person to work with. We've worked together for about 9 years now. And Craig is at AUT as the Manager for Digital and Online Initiatives. And you heard from Craig yesterday about where his thinking and sits around open source and what it can do for us all. So I shall hand over to them to plug in, press buttons that I'm too frightened to press. And go. Morgan? That looks like it's good.
No.
Do I need to ad-lib some more?
Yeah, do some ad-lib.
Okay. I know what I can say. I forgot to thank the sponsors this morning. This will take me a minute, so take your time, Craig. This conference is fully funded by our sponsors. All of the food and everything that you're enjoying is all fully paid for by some Pounamu sponsors, by Water Solutions, who we have a few people here from. I wanted to make special mention this morning of Bitika, who are based in Colombia, who are also Pounamu sponsors and couldn't send anyone here, but still made a really significant financial contribution. So that's amazing. Open Fifth, we have a few colleagues here from, and also Catalyst. So that is all of our Pounamu sponsors. Just wanted a little quick paki round of applause for them. And also our Tuhua sponsors, LMS Cloud, and we have one representative, and I can't see you quickly right now, but I saw you arrive this morning, I think. And also AUT gave back to us as a sponsor, so very fitting to finish with them and pass you over to our friends.
No.
Who have a tuatara on their first slide.
Oh! No, don't go there.
What's up there?
Whatever you do, don't go there.
Oh, okay. Well, you said to ad-lib. I saw something and I started talking. No, you concentrate. I'm trying to buy you time. I shouldn't distract you from what you're doing. Morning tea today is muffins. And for our non-gluten friends, there'll be something individually wrapped for you, so look out for that. And I think, give me a nod if I should stop. I think we're good. I'm going to pass.
Yeah, we're just going to get our notes up on Alex's
laptop,
and
Excellent.
Then we will be good.
All right, I keep anticipating that. We're all sorted. Cool. All right, round of applause for Craig and Alex, and enjoy.
Kia ora koutou. It's been a good start so far. How long will that take?
30 seconds.
Okay. Alex and I introduced ourselves yesterday, so we're not going to do that again. Apologies to those who are here for the first time today. Awkward pause. I'm going to start at a bit that I know, because then I can get back to the bit I don't know. This beautiful lady on the screen is a tuatara and native to New Zealand, very long-lived, cold-blooded lizard, I guess. For want of a better word. But the cool thing about them is that they like to sleep under hotel beds and come out at night. No, they don't. The cool thing about them in this case is that I'm pretty sure there's a tuatara enclosure here at Vic Uni, and I think it's actually really close to us. Just that way. Okay. So you might not have a chance to see them. You're not going to have a chance to see them in the wild. You might see them in a zoo, but you can see them right here. So I would recommend that you take that opportunity. Obviously, people know where they are, so find some of those people. How you going?
Getting there.
Getting there. Are you being duo? You got no internet.
Yes.
Yep.
That one, yeah.
Beautiful. I think there used to be 4, but yeah. There you go. Beautiful. Okay, we are ready after that interesting pause. So, yeah, as I said, we introduced ourselves yesterday. So instead of our pepeha, we are going, or I'm going to start with a whakatauki, so a Māori proverb. And the whakatauki goes, I orea te tuatara ka patu ki waho. And a literal translation, I guess, might be, the tuatara will pop out of its hole if you poke it with a stick. The meaning of that is something along the lines of a problem is solved by continuing to find solutions. It talks about the need for creativity and flexibility and perseverance in finding collaborative solutions particularly. And I like it because I think it reflects the way that we work together with the folk from Catalyst. And it means I can use a picture of a tuatara on the screen. So thank you. Welcome to our talk. Kia ora, Dale. What an amazing thing in 20 years to get from, like you say, where we were to where we are now. And I don't think we think about it enough. So Alex and I talked yesterday in sort of broad terms about some of the things that we've been working on. And we're going to get into a couple of those things in a bit more technical detail today, well, Alex is, and also introduce an upcoming project. And the 3 projects are combinations of Koha, VuFind and DSpace. I like to think of Koha as sort of the central bit of that. Thank you. So VuFind is a discovery layer, as I'm sure most of you know. We use it for our discovery service at AUT. We went live back in 2019 with VuFind, switched from EBSCO Discovery Service. We still use the EDS API and other EBSCO services in VuFind. In 2023, we partnered with Catalyst for our VuFind development and support. They had no experience with VuFind at that point, but really it was an easy decision for us because of the work they'd done for us with Koha. Our initial goals with Catalyst were to improve the sustainability of our VuFind instance because we were in a situation that I guess a lot of people were after COVID, with our developer leaving, not being able to afford a new one, ICT not really having any interest in it. So, yeah, and to improve the integrations that VuFind had with Koha, evaluate our customisations and retain the ones that we could manage for the future and contribute back to the project was the other important thing. The second project is something called IA, the Rainbow Collection. The photo on the left up there is the aftermath of the arson attack on the Lesbian and Gay Rights Research Centre in 1986 in Wellington. The centre was in Bulcott Street, which is about halfway down towards the harbour. And the second picture is also an arson attack, but that one was on the Rainbow Youth Building in 2022 in Tauranga. Both of those places hosted community archives, and a lot of that is now lost. In that sense, I think IA is a bit of a passion project for me and a few other people in this room. We need to preserve and make available our rainbow history. We're really lucky at AUT that we've got the highest per capita population of rainbow identifying students and a really strong history of supporting rainbow research, collaborating, that type of thing. So we've got a small but pretty significant collection of rainbow research, postgraduate theses and faculty outputs. Most were already open access in DSpace, the institutional repository, but they weren't particularly findable by non-academic rainbow communities, a bit like a queer needle in a big, boring heterosis haystack. So the aim of IA was to share that content in a way that was safe, targeted, selective, curated and accessible for the broader rainbow community. Catalyst worked really closely with us to develop the integrations required to bring IA to reality, and the design as well. Thank you, Tony. IA, people say that IA is the world's first rainbow research portal. I kind of not sure about that, but we haven't been able to find others, so I still say it. It's had downloads from users in more than 70 countries, and a number of those countries are places where homosexuality is criminalised. So, it's really great to see the impact that it's already having. And I will hand over to Alex now for the technical details of what we've done.
Thank you, Craig. So I'm going to talk a bit under the hood about how these two different projects with VuFind work. So as Craig mentioned, the main face of the AUT library is VuFind, or the system is called Library Search. So the way this works in practice is that the AUT librarians use Koha as the system for circulation, user management, cataloguing and acquisitions, whereas VuFind is the search interface. It's what the academic staff and students at AUT actually use for finding the information that they need. As I talked a bit about yesterday, VuFind, Koha and DSpace can all integrate in several different ways. And at AUT, the way it works is, there's a few different ways that they integrate to deliver the services that the AUT staff and students need. So I talked yesterday about the OAI PMH, the way that you can get information from Koha or DSpace into VuFind. Now, for AUT, we have multiple harvests a day from Koha, from VuFind of Koha. And the reason for this is that the AUT library semi-regularly imports or modifies large numbers of bibliographic records. So we're talking about things like electronic resources, where there might be an import of 600,000 bibliographic records. So to effectively support this large load of changes, we worked together with AUT and devised a harvest schedule to keep both the Koha and VuFind collections synced by having regular incremental harvests usually multiple times a day and also during the night as well, to make sure that we can handle that load over the course of the day and the night. I also talked yesterday around that rapidly changing information, things like item availability, borrower checkout lists, your list of holds and reserves. These are things that can change rapidly. So as I mentioned yesterday, Koha comes out of the box with a set of API endpoints, basically bits of code you can run on Koha to fetch information and display it on VuFind. But what we use with AUT is a plugin which is installed on Koha, and it was written by the National Library of Finland. So they use Koha and VuFind. And this plugin that they've created is a huge benefit, because what it does is it combines a lot of those stock default API endpoints that Koha has into a few smaller combined endpoints. So for example, when we're loading a record that has lots of different items attached, the plugin creates or gives us access to a single endpoint, a single API that we can call for each item to fetch the availability. If we didn't have this plugin, we'd have to make at least 4 separate API calls for every single item. As you can imagine, if you've got a serial record with hundreds or thousands of items attached, if you had to do 4 calls for every single one of those items, you're going to get some serious lag and performance issues. So this plugin is really helpful for getting around that, reducing the server overheads there, and getting the information displayed quicker and more efficiently. Another really important thing with these API endpoints is for users, students and academic staff to be able to actually interact with their Koha account from VuFind. And a key way of doing this is requesting a book. So when someone clicks on the Request This Item button that we can see here, it's actually generating a hold in Koha, also using this plugin, the REST API plugin from the National Library of Finland. So that's how users can actually interact with their library account from VuFind. But how do we actually get those accounts created in Koha? So all academic students and AUT staff have an account in Koha, and we use this because we need somewhere to keep track of library-specific information. What books have they got checked out? What requested items have they got? What's their search and loan history? These user accounts in Koha are automatically generated, and they're provisioned from an automated job, a cron job, that pre-processes and imports CSV files that the AUT student management system uploads 5 times a day. The integration also not only creates the initial account for someone in Koha, it actually updates that account during the person's academic journey. So for example, when they are going from being an undergraduate student to a postgraduate student, the AUT librarians aren't having to manually make that switch from one category code in Koha to another. It automatically happens, enabling those users to have greater circulation privileges. It's great to be able to have this automated, freeing up librarian time for more useful things than these manual tasks. Touching on Craig's earlier point about contributing back to the VuFind project, since our team Ropu Kohanga started working with AUT, we've contributed 18 enhancements back to the VuFind community. Many of these were actually rewritten customizations, written in a more general way to be useful for a wider group of libraries in the VuFind community. All of them are in the areas of user experience or improving that Koha VuFind integration, or in translations. And what's really fantastic is that, as well as all of us in Ropu Kohanga having upstream contributions in VuFind, Craig also has upstream contributions. I wanted to give a little example of an upstream contribution that we've got. So here is a small example. So I'm not sure how many of you are like me and have a default search or a default record you use when you are testing things in Koha. For me, it's fish. I love the search and I love this record. And I've got this is a habit when you've been trained by Chris. He uses fish as a search term as well, so I've just picked that up and have gone with it for all these years. But what I wanted to point out in this example is that highlighted in yellow here, we can see City Campus Main Collection in the availability box. So this is the name of a shelving location in Koha. Up until we wrote this enhancement, VuFind would only display a branch name from Koha, so that would be something like City Campus. It wouldn't display a shelving location, so we're missing a whole bunch of that specific information to help students and staff find the books that they want. So we added an enhancement so that VuFind fetched and displayed the shelving location in VuFind. Libraries can choose if they want to keep just the branch code or they can use the shelving location. A bit like with Koha, in VuFind we're trying to make things configurable as much as possible, so libraries can choose if they want this enhancement or not. It's not obligatory, you can choose and have total control. And now I'm going to shift back over to EAR and what's some of the behind the scenes technology around that. So something I'd like to say at the start is working on this project was a career highlight for me. Not only did it mean working with the wonderful AUT team and our fabulous designer Tony, but who also did amazing designs on the site, but it's amazing and important work showcasing the research of our rainbow communities. So very, very rewarding. Now, EAR, same as library search, is getting and displaying data from another system, but it's DSpace, not Koha this time. So the AUT DSpace instance is called Tufera, and it's used by AUT students where they upload their theses, their research and dissertations, and it also makes university and faculty research output openly available for anyone to search and explore. The EAR VuFind site doesn't harvest all of the research or all of the content from DSpace. We didn't want a mirror of Tufera. The purpose of EAR is to create a dedicated rainbow research portal. So we only wanted to harvest curated rainbow research content. Helpfully, DSpace makes this pretty straightforward because in DSpace, librarians can collate together related information into something called a collection. So collate together a group of items into a collection. VuFind can then target this collection to only harvest that information and make it searchable. Now, most of the items in DSpace had attached PDF files. These are things like the actual thesis file itself. Now, we didn't want VuFind to store those PDF files. We only want to link to them. Why? Because DSpace is optimized for storing large files, and why should we reinvent the wheel storing it in two places when DSpace is already storing it? Another unique constraint for the EAR project is we needed to fetch lots of different data fields from DSpace. So we needed to include usual metadata fields like subject and abstract. We also needed to harvest some custom AUT fields. So these are things like the Rainbow Collection keywords. We wanted these keywords indexed and searchable because we wanted a search facet down the side of the EAR search result page where you can click to narrow down and filter the results. Now, DSpace exposes records in lots of different formats. Some formats have some fields and other formats have other fields. So we had to try and choose what format would work best for displaying the fields we needed so we could harvest them into VuFind. Looking at a whole lot of different fields, we decided on using something called the XOAI metadata format. It displayed all the fields we needed, plus those custom Rainbow Collection keyword fields, and we didn't need to do any customizations whatsoever on the DSpace side. It just displayed them by default, these custom fields, so that was an absolute plus. We wrote a file to convert the data from a DSpace format into a VuFind format, and we're in the process of upstreaming this. Now, more of the metadata fields, some of the metadata fields like those rainbow keywords needed to be searchable, like I mentioned, but there was no search index field for us to actually store that information in on the VuFind side. And again, we're trying to avoid customizations. So what we did is we mapped them to the closest approximate VuFind search index field. And this has kept our goal of having no source code customizations, making future EA upgrades more straightforward. We're trying to avoid customizations as much as humanly possible. Something else that was key was making searching on EA as user-friendly as possible. Lots of these items, as I mentioned, have linked PDF files, and we want, so they'd have the item information harvested into VuFind has got URLs to PDF files, to images, and so on. We needed to index, but as I mentioned, not store those PDF files. Why? Because when someone does a search in EA, we want them to be able to find search matches in the research itself, in the thesis file itself, and not just a few metadata fields. So what all this meant is that we needed full text searching. We needed to make those linked files searchable as well as the metadata itself that was harvested. And the VuFind community, like Koha, has a very helpful wiki, and we followed this. And basically, the only change that we needed to do was amending that conversion script that I mentioned, so that we basically harvest all the content in the PDF file and we store it in a full text search field. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward for actually making those files searchable and helping our users to find information in the Rainbow research itself. And now I'll hand back over to Craig to talk about a future project that will join together VuFind, DSpace and Koha.
Thank you. Alex changed that quite a bit last night, so that was really interesting. At AUT, we've got a small physical archive, and it stretches back to the formation of the institution in 1895. The metadata records for that have been stored in Koha for a while now, but digitisation of the various items in the archive only began this year. We've decided to use DSpace to store and administer the resulting image files, including high-resolution RAW files, standard image files, and thumbnails. Skeleton metadata is exported from DSpace, enhanced, and then imported into Koha. That's currently a manual process just during testing, but we'll automate it in the future. The collection will then be harvested and indexed by VuFind using a separate OAI PMH set to create an additional search option in VuFind, probably like an additional bento box for those who know VuFind. Like EA, the files, in this case the images, will be delivered by DSpace. We're going to begin with the standard DSpace image viewer and then consider the Mirador image viewer once we see usage patterns. And I'm pretty excited about this, even though the collection itself is not that exciting. I just think it's a really great way to use the products in combination to get the best out of all of them. So thank you, and apologies for the false start. Thank you.